So unfortunately, I think that the European Commission's forecasts that came out last week are pretty accurate. In fact, I think they're probably a bit too optimistic, and they show that all of the weaker countries in the Eurozone are going to go even deeper into recession, and actually the stronger countries are just going to stagnate. Over the next year, I think that's probably going to be the case over the next couple of years. And so in economic terms, things don't look great. In political terms, we're seeing increased fragmentation and kind of extremism across the Eurozone. Every single government that has gone up for elections has lost, except for in the Netherlands. So I think that's going to be a trend that we'll continue to see. And in social terms, I think as countries in the weaker parts of the Eurozone in particular are squeezed more and more, I think we'll see a lot more social unrest going forward. Yeah, I think it took the core countries in the Eurozone way too long to realize that growth was really an issue. And so the focus on kind of austerity and hitting fiscal targets was almost maniacally followed before growth even came onto the agenda. And so as a result, we've seen all the weaker countries having to make all of the adjustment to look a bit more like the core countries, particularly Germany. And they've had to do all the adjusting, and it just ensures that they go deeper into recession. If we could instead have seen more inflation in Germany, more wage growth, then the adjustment would have been a bit more symmetric, and that's important given that this crisis is really based on fundamental imbalances within the Eurozone, and that goes not just for the peripheral countries, but for the core countries as well. I'm often asked why the U.S. needs to care about what's going on in Europe, and there are a number of reasons. I mean, one is the financial services industries are inextricably linked in Europe and the U.S. And so if there were to be some kind of dramatic event in Europe, the U.S. will certainly be hit directly through financial services. Also, European banks offer quite a lot of trade finance, which would hit the U.S. as well. But the U.S. and the developed world in general has sort of been on a high horse for ages for the emerging markets, saying that they know how to set up a democracy, a functioning democracy. And we're now seeing a huge democratic deficit emerge in Europe. And so if democracy in Europe were to fail, that would be an undermining message for the U.S. as well. I think the U.S. should, behind the scenes, be trying to influence its European partners towards more solidarity and towards a banking union in particular. It's very worrisome, in my view, that the Germans in particular have started to backtrack from the small progress they had made on establishing a banking union. And in my view, that's absolutely crucial to draw a line under this crisis.